Or frame it in another term, how do you think about immigration policy? What are we missing here? What's the big opportunity that's available to us that we're not talking about?
I mean, I think for me, part of it is so I'm Filipino. There are about 4 million Filipino Americans in the United States, 2 million in California. There are actually more Filipinos in California, 2 million, than there are the entire population of New Hampshire. Just FYI, right? And so out of all my Filipino relatives here in the Bay, there's about 40 of them. Everybody is either a naturalized U.S. citizen or a U.S.-born citizen or a green card holder. I'm the only one who's here illegally without documentation, right? So I think part of the struggle, part of the challenge is actually looking at the undocumented population as a part of the broader documented population. So we have 45 million immigrants in this country. I don't know if everybody knows this. 45 million immigrants, right? 11 million of whom are undocumented, people like me. You can't separate the 11 million from the 45 million because we live in the same family, right? Most of us live within the same families. And so this is something that I think most people don't understand, is that so when you deport the dad or the mom or the aunt or the grandma, then what happens to the kids? What happens to the family unit? Right. So to me, that's a part of the policy. And this, by the way, cuts across between legal immigration, right, and quote unquote illegal immigration, right? So these issues are interconnected. And for me, by the way, with the Trump administration, to me, part of what hasn't gotten a lot of coverage or really understanding is that the attack of this administration against all kinds of immigration, right? Like all the conversations around merit. Right. When people say that, oh yeah, we should stop letting all these people in, and we should just consider having a merit system like Canada or Australia. And then to me, when I hear that, I don't know if you want me to go around asking people, have you earned the right to be in America? Look, if you're born in this country, what have you earned the right? Like, what have you done to actually earn being here?
So, Jose,
I think that's a question we want to go around asking people.
So what is give people some specifics to hang some of this on that they can take with them. What would you like to see happen? If you could say, let's make these things happen. Give us a couple of policy points that would be valuable.
A couple of policy points. Like there's no reason why there are 11 million undocumented people in this country. And again, just based on my travels, I think it's more than 11 million people. Right? I think we're undercounting some populations. We need to provide some process for people to actually legalize themselves and quote unquote become citizens. With that, we also have to figure out how do we then make sure that while we do that, right, we examine what our existing policies and what laws are in place. Right? Like I don't know about you, but I've been studying a lot kind of the Bracero program in this country. There used to be a time when it was totally fine and legal for seasonal workers from Mexico to go to the United States, right? And then they can go back, right? And in many ways, the 1965 Immigration Nationality Act created this problem of all of a sudden, that's why, for example, half of the undocumented population are Mexican and coming from Mexico, right? So how do we study kind of our previous laws that have been in place to figure out if we need more farmers, should we revive a Bracero program, right? And then when it comes, by the way, to H-1B visas, right? Like, there's been a lot of back and forth around, do we want high-skilled workers? I'm in Silicon Valley, like I don't know how Silicon Valley would clearly there's the issue of native U.S.-born citizens should be able to have these jobs. That's a pipeline issue problem, right? Which means probably we should have educational resources so that we actually prepare more of our students. But while we're doing that, are you saying that we should then cut off technological companies from hiring people as H-1B workers? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense.
I put that question to both of you on the stage today too, thinking about what is possible. What are the sort of limits that we can set, or what are the incentives that we can use to try to come up with a productive immigration policy? What are the things that you see as, if it's not low-hanging fruit, something that is there that people could advocate for? People in our audience could begin to say, that's something I can push for.
I think one of the first things that we should push for is the continuation, the revival and continuation of aid programs to Central American countries that are suffering from corruption and violence. Because we talk about and I thank Jose for raising the issue of the numbers and the people, particularly the talented workers, but we're also talking about people who really are fleeing very difficult situations. It's life and death. And when we have violent crime and gangs in our own country, we pour a lot of resources into it, and we understand and recognize the collateral consequences of that. And a lot of the asylum seekers that we are encountering are facing that exact same problem that we recognize as a serious problem that we don't want our kids dealing with. And so programs that seed aid and assistance to police and military, as well as humanitarian assistance to countries that are struggling with corruption and violence, I think would go a long way towards dealing with part of the underlying problem of the asylum seekers themselves, because that has really become almost the sore spot. And because people are so entangled in that issue, and how do we prevent them from getting 1 foot across the border, and if we're going to prosecute them all for illegal entry, even though there's a completely parallel law that allows them asylum, we prosecute them for illegal entry, and therefore we get to take the kids away, and maybe they'll think twice about coming here. When you're running for your life, you don't have time to think twice about anything. All you can think about is, let me get my kids and let me get out of here and let me try and find a place that is safe. And we hold ourselves out as that place. We do, and we strive to be that place. And that should be a source of pride for us in terms of managing that situation. But the noise from that issue, I think, has drowned out a number of the other important issues, Jose, that you have mentioned about how do we deal with the H-1B1 visa problem? How do we deal with the pipeline problem in our educational system? This H-1B1 visa problem is an issue that goes back years and is connected to our educational system. But we can't seem to get to those issues because we're so caught up in this issue of demonizing people who are themselves fleeing demons.